Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're making a video by popular demand. We're going to be going through and tearing down an ASIC mining rig, specifically the Antminer T9. This method will apply to other ASIC miners, whether you have an L3 or an L3++. The same principles will transfer over to those miners. A lot of these ASIC miners I have found are put together fairly similar, whether it's using extruded aluminum casings, the way they position their boards, and how individual components are mounted. They're all very similar. Before I dive into this, guys, I want to just say thank you for everybody that's been so supportive and helping the channel grow. If you want to help out some more and push my channel to the next level, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. The Discord server is such a great place right now. It's growing so fast. We have the Dogecoin lottery. We have so much stuff going on. And it's just a great community where you can learn and we can help each other grow. So if you guys have any questions that I don't get to in the comments down below, slide on over to Discord and join the conversation there. If you could hit that like button, I'd appreciate it. It always helps me out, helps the YouTube algorithm, pushes this content out to other people that could benefit them and help them learn and grow as we do. That being said, guys, we're going to dive right into it. I'm going to transition here and we're going to take apart this T9. I'm going to do it the best I can. I am limited with my webcam. I do have a new camera coming, so be patient for that. But let's jump right over here and take a look at the teardown and go through it step by step. Alright guys, so it's a fairly simple teardown. These units, like I said, are fairly similar across the board. I may see a couple different variations between them, but they are a lot alike when it comes to how they're assembled and how they're manufactured. So the casing is actually a piece of extruded aluminum that they can actually slide in and lock in to each other. So if you have a farm or multiple units, you can use these rails here to link them together so you have one larger unit, easier to kind of move around and store. Today we're going to be using just a can of dust off, some rubbing alcohol, and just a toothbrush. So what we're going to do is we're going to tear into this first. We're going to remove the fans. The unit is cooled down. We made sure that the unit was fully cooled before disassembling it. We're going to make sure that everything all the power cables were properly disassembled. I'm going to leave these ribbon cables attached to the controller here when I take the controller out. That way I'm not messing up any of the connections, and we'll go through and we'll clean them as well. First things first, though, I'd like to go ahead and disconnect the fans. They just slide right out. Now you don't have to take the controller out. If I'm doing a full teardown and I'm doing a full cleaning, I like to take the controllers out just so I can get in there and make sure that everything is cleaned out properly. Pop out these cables. Okay. Now to pull the controller out, don't pull it from the cables. Grab the board itself. It has two pins here. They're spring loaded. I kind of wiggle it back and forth a little bit, get it loose, and then just gently slide the whole controller out. Alright, there's your controller. We're going to put that aside. Alright, the next thing I'd like to do is remove the the fans. Now when removing the fans, they are directional. One pushes, one pulls, and they want the airflow to be going in the same direction. So when you disassemble it, make sure that you're marking it either with a Sharpie or a piece of like a crayon, some wax, just to make sure you're putting them back in the proper direction. There's one fan. You can see there's already some major debris in there. Now this is a second-hand unit, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to find inside. I know I'm having issues with some of these hashing boards, so hopefully by cleaning it out we're going to resolve some of those issues. Now this is also a good time if you want to upgrade your fans to maybe a quieter set. This is a great opportunity to do that. Just while you have it apart and you're cleaning it, you know, swap in those new fans and maybe get some better cooling action and less noise. All right, I'm going to leave the screws in the fans. That way I know which direction they go in because I'm not going to mark them. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, I'm just going to place those off to the side. I'm going to clean those fans with the dust off. Typically what I do when I clean the fans, let's move this out of the way for a second, is obviously you won't have the screws in there, but I'll put my finger just to stop the blade and get that dust in there. Now you'd want to be careful when using the dust off. You see there it kind of flashed a little bit because of the compressed compound in the canned air. You don't want that. You don't want to tip it too far forward. You don't want to freeze your board as well. So you want to keep these upright when you're spraying and cleaning. Lots of gunk. Alright. I'm not going to go super crazy on these fans because I do plan on replacing them in the future. Okay. Both fans have been blown off. Now we're left with the case with the hashing board still inside and no controller board. You have to pull the boards out from this back side here, typically for the Antminers. You can see here that there's a slot for each individual hashing board. So we're going to tip it back up on its end, and we're going to remove these 4 screws here. And then these boards should just slide right out. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Be careful with the screws. These ones are small, so we gotta be careful we don't lose them. And sometimes, because these boards are laser cut and stamped, they do get a little warped. So as you take them off, they may fling some of the screws around. So I like to keep a second hand up there just to make sure I don't lose any screws. See, this one's already had the seal broken. One of the screws should have a seal on it. From the factory, this one is broken already, so someone has already taken this machine apart. Okay, go ahead and set those screws aside, keep them all together. Alright. That cover comes right off. We'll go ahead and wipe that down. Doesn't look too bad. Looks like there's a little residue back there, maybe from one of the fans spitting out oil, so I'm probably going to go ahead and replace those fans sooner rather than later. We are going to take a little bit of the alcohol here, rubbing alcohol. I'm going to put it on a paper towel and just kind of wipe down the back side of this case, back side of this cover for the case here, just so I don't forget to do it. That's some nasty stuff. Right. Set that aside to dry. Now if you'd like to wear gloves, especially with dealing with alcohol, it may be beneficial for you. I've been in the field and welded most of my life, so my hands are pretty callous and beat up as it is, so I'm not too worried about it for myself. but gloves are not a bad idea if your hands are a little bit more sensitive and prone to drying and cracking. So let's go ahead and pull out that first board. And they just slide right out. Again, I'm going to put these aside for now. We'll inspect them together in a second. Okay, now we can take a look at the inside of the unit here. You can see it is one solid piece. Like I said, it's an extruded piece of aluminum, meaning it's a hot or malleable piece, chunk of aluminum that's pushed through a die, like you would say Play-Doh when you were a kid, and it makes this shape. At this angle, you can see the different channels where you can actually lock multiple units together. So I'm going to go ahead and put this aside, and we'll blow it and wipe it out as well. Okay, so this is one of our hashing boards. You can see that's got some serious dust on it and some buildup. We're going to go ahead and blow it off first before we clean it with the alcohol and the toothbrush. Now when I'm cleaning these boards, they have all these little heat sinks on each side. What you want to do is when you're blowing them, maybe tilt it sideways just a little bit to make sure we get all that dust and debris out of them. And just kind of work it back and forth and make sure you get all that dust out of it. And then we can take a look down the top view and make sure we have nice clean paths for the air to travel. Okay guys, so as you're cleaning and blowing out, you want to be careful that we don't overspray it with the compressed air. We don't want to freeze any of the boards. We are going to clean with alcohol, so we will be taking care of some of the stuff that you see that's still stuck on there. At this point, we can see the serial number, when it was manufactured, Bitmain, hashing board version 1.4. There's little channels back here where these are stuck to the chips. Make sure we get air down in there and clean those out. Next process is going to be taking the toothbrush and the alcohol and just cleaning some of these surfaces, making sure we clean up some of these contact areas for the cables and the power. You can see this one here is slightly burnt, so I don't know if this board is actually going to be savable. Maybe something we create a ticket for and send it back to Bitmain for repair. When we do that, I'm just going to be sending back the board itself. I'm not going to be sending back the whole unit. That way I can still use a portion of my board, the boards that remain, to continue to mine cryptocurrency. So let's go ahead and clean these up. Yeah, I'm just going to take my toothbrush, dip it in some alcohol here. I'm just going to lightly go back and forth. I use a soft bristle toothbrush. They're cheap. You can pick them up at your dollar store. And I'm just going to go over these surfaces here, making sure everything is nice and clean. Clean out the contacts. Just be careful, if you know, pay attention, make sure nothing is loose. Alright, it's a good time. I can brush through these a little bit. Okay. And again, I'm just inspecting here. I'm looking for any maybe burnt solder marks. Make sure any of the resistors are falling off. And I'm just being very gentle. I'm not pushing down too hard. I'm just kind of going through it here and making sure that we're getting all the grime out of there. You can see how dirty the toothbrush is getting already. Alright guys, so I'm just going to continue to do this process across all of my hashing boards. Make sure we get all the dust out, make sure we get any grime that's stuck in there. And once I have gone ahead and cleaned everything, what I'll do is, again, I will take the compressed air and I'll just blow it off one last time, and I'll let it sit for a few minutes to dry without putting it back in the case. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to clean the other units, the other boards, and make sure that there's nothing out of the ordinary. Looks like everything's okay. So we're going to make sure that everything is status quo, we don't have any dark scorch marks, and then we'll go back to reassembling it. Ta-da! Magic! And they are all clean and perfect and ready to go, and they're all 100%. No, not the case, unfortunately. Two of the boards I noticed had some burn marks here on the power supply or the power input for each hashing board. I didn't see any desoldering, which was nice. Some things you do want to look for is desoldering or corrosion. I don't think these boards had ever been cleaned, to be honest with you. So I'm wondering if where I had some issues with two of these boards, potentially if some of the chips have actually been overheated and burnt out. But that being said, like before, what you can do is you can create a ticket and send these back to Bitmain or other repair shops to have the chip removed, new chip put back on, and so on. But overall, I've cleaned them out, washed them all down with the alcohol and the toothbrush gently. You can see here that pretty nasty. My toothbrush has definitely seen better days. But we've gone ahead, like I said, cleaned them, made sure that they're dry, made sure that there's no more alcohol residue left on them. And what we're going to do next is reinsert them back into the case and make sure everything is connected properly and secure. Alright, let's dive into putting these machines back together. Alright, now that we got our nice clean case and our nice clean boards, we're going to carefully insert these. Now, the boards are directional, so be careful on how you insert them. They will only slide in so far in one direction and completely in the other. So let's go ahead and get these inserted. You see there's our power supply there at the top. I'll line it up the slot here. Carefully and gently, just slowly lower them into place. Be careful with that last one, it can be a little tricky. Looks like we got everything in there nice and tight. Go ahead and see the tops of our boards are properly located. Go ahead and take our cover. Now the slots are up here. The little cutouts here for airflow are towards the top of the unit, and your connecting points for your power supply. Okay, something I want to mention real quick before we continue, before we put the fan on. When installing this plate and you get all your 4 screws into place properly, you'll notice here the 4 tapped holes for your fan. This plate is directional, so you want your slots, like I said before, here at the top for your airflow, and you want the smooth side out towards you, towards the fan. If you have it reversed and you go to put your fan on, you're going to have gaps underneath, and it won't be an efficient system. So you want to make sure that it's smooth on top and that our fan can properly be secured. When installing our fans, we want to make sure that the cable is in an appropriate location to connect to the control board. Don't over tighten these, just snug them up. If you over tighten them, you run the risk of cracking the housing for the fans. Okay, now that the boards are secure, I'm going to go ahead and attach the fan on the other side. Give that surface just a nice little wipe down with some alcohol on a paper towel here. Now I know they still look a little bit dirty here on top, but I do assure you that we have gone through, we have cleaned them and wiped them down. Just some of the residual residue left over. While I'm installing this, I'll give you guys a little tip. When you're using that compressed air, if you don't have a compressor available, I would prefer to use a compressor with a dryer on it, making sure that the air is nice and dry coming out of the compressor. However, if you do have to use that compressed can of air, and it does get cold against your hand and you're losing pressure, what you can do is run it under some warm water for a few seconds and bring that temperature of that can back up a little bit, and that'll allow you to use it down to the very last bit. 'Cause I know those cans of air go fairly quickly. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and wipe down the PCB board or the control board, make sure everything there looks correct and accurate, and go ahead and insert that. Okay, so we went ahead and we wiped down the control board here. Didn't see anything out of the ordinary. There are slots on the unit here for the control board to slide into. There is a little tricky to get into. Just make sure that you're take your time with it. Alright, and just ease it in. Make sure that you're sliding in the appropriate slots. I am not. Alright, there we go. Just take your time, slide it in, and you'll hear those pins click in, locking your board into place. Alright. So now we have everything installed, everything is cleaned up. I didn't see any issues with the control board, so I'm going to go ahead and plug the fans in. Make sure we plug them in correctly. Don't force anything. If it's not going in smoothly, make sure that you don't force it. We don't want to break these boards. I know how expensive some of these units are, so just take your time with it. They are pretty straightforward. Alright, those are nice and secured down. Go ahead and straighten out your cables. And you'll notice here I'm going from one side to the next in line with the board. I'm not crossing any of the cables here. Make sure everything is locked into place securely. And there you have it. That is it. Again, there's really not much to these machines. They're fairly simple to put together. We had a couple pins here or springs to hold in your control board. Couple simple connectors for your wires, and about 8 screws there to pull out the entire board itself to clean it. Be careful cleaning some of these machines. If you are in an enclosed area, make sure you have plenty of ventilation. They do get dusty. They build up a lot of dust. If your hands are sensitive, obviously use gloves with the rubbing alcohol. And just take care of it. Set yourself up. Take your time with it. Don't rush the process. Keep your eye out for any scorch marks or burn marks. And then try to figure out and learn. And that's what it's all about. Is trial and error. Like I said, I can't stress it enough. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to try something new. Just take your time with it. If you get stuck, if you have any issues, slide over to Discord. There's tons of people over there that can help out, that can kind of, point you in the right direction, myself included. It's a great community. It's a growing community. And I encourage you guys to, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.